On Saturday morning, Donald Trump posted something on social media that sent oil markets, newsrooms, and foreign ministries scrambling simultaneously. He wrote that an agreement to end the war in Iran and reopen the Strait of Hormuz had been largely negotiated. He said final aspects and details were being discussed and would be announced shortly. And he said he had spoken with the leaders of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Bahrain about a memorandum of understanding pertaining to peace. Then he posted an AI-generated image of American drones destroying Iranian ships. Within hours, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was standing in front of cameras in New Delhi, India, on a trip he had already been making, and told reporters that significant progress had been made. He said the administration had worked with Gulf regional partners over the previous 48 hours on a possible framework. He hinted that there may be something to say on this topic while he was still in India. This problem will be solved, Rubio said, one way or the other. And then Iran's state news agency Fars published a response. It said Trump's assertion that Iran would no longer control access to the Strait of Hormuz was inconsistent with reality. And Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi, who had already said on May 23rd the words that cut through every layer of diplomatic language, no enrichment would mean we do not have a deal. Three statements, three completely different realities. And the world, which has been watching this negotiation for 86 days, is trying to figure out which one is true. Let me take you through exactly what happened in the last 48 hours, what the three sides are actually saying beneath the headlines, what the Hajj deadline means for the next 96 hours, and the three possible outcomes that could emerge from this window. Because this is the most consequential 96-hour period of the entire war. Start with what Trump actually said, and what he did not say. Trump's Saturday post was carefully worded in ways that most people read too quickly to catch. He said the deal was largely negotiated, not signed, not agreed, not final. Largely negotiated is a phrase that leaves enormous room for the parts that are not yet negotiated. He said final aspects and details were being discussed. That means final aspects and details are still unresolved. And he said the announcement would come shortly, a word that in Trump's diplomatic vocabulary has meant anywhere from 24 hours to several weeks. He also listed the leaders he had spoken with. 8 countries: Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Bahrain. All of them Gulf or regional partners. Notably absent from that list, Iran. Trump said he spoke to Netanyahu, whose call he described as going very well. Also notably absent from that list, Iran. The President of the United States announced that a deal with Iran has been largely negotiated, and did not say he spoke to a single Iranian official in the process. That detail is not minor. It reveals the nature of what Trump is describing. He is not announcing a bilateral agreement between Washington and Tehran. He is announcing a framework, a memorandum of understanding that he has constructed with regional partners and is now presenting to Iran as the terms of peace. Whether Iran accepts those terms is a completely separate question from whether those terms have been largely negotiated among the parties that drafted them. Now look at what Rubio said in New Delhi, because his language was even more instructive than Trump's. Rubio repeated Trump's 3 criteria for any deal. Iran must never obtain a nuclear weapon. The Strait of Hormuz must reopen without tolls, and Iran's enriched uranium must be turned over. He described the administration's goal as achieving global consensus around these principles. He pointed to a UN resolution that, he said, had been co-sponsored by almost every country represented at the meeting he was attending. He called the idea that Trump would accept a deal that left Iran in a stronger nuclear position absurd. And he said the United States would not allow Iran to hold the global energy market hostage. Then he added the phrase that matters most. We hope it's done through the diplomatic route, he said. That's what we're working on, and perhaps there will be something to talk about on that topic while I'm here on this visit at some point. Perhaps. There will be something to talk about at some point. These are not the words of a man who knows a deal is signed. These are the words of a man who knows a deal is possible and who is leaving the door open for an announcement he cannot yet confirm. The gap between Trump's largely negotiated and Rubio's perhaps there will be something to talk about is significant. It suggests that what Trump announced was a framework developed with regional partners, which may or may not be acceptable to the one party that matters most, Iran. So what does Iran actually say? Iran's position, as of this weekend, can be summarized in 3 statements that have been made publicly and on the record by senior Iranian officials within the past 48 hours. First, no enrichment would mean we do not have a deal. This came from Foreign Minister Araghchi on May 23rd. It is an absolute statement. Iran will not accept a deal that permanently prohibits uranium enrichment. This directly contradicts Trump's stated requirement that Iran's enriched uranium must be turned over, which implies ending the enrichment program, not merely pausing it. Second, Iran's state news agency Fars said Trump's assertion that Iran would no longer control access to the Strait of Hormuz was inconsistent with reality. This directly contradicts Rubio's stated requirement that the strait must reopen without tolls, because Iran's Persian Gulf Security Authority toll regime has been operational since May 18th, and Iran shows no sign of abandoning it. Third, within the past 24 hours, Iran's IRGC Navy confirmed that 33 ships, including oil tankers, had passed through the Strait of Hormuz with Iran's permission. Notice that framing, with Iran's permission. Iran is not saying the strait is open. Iran is saying it is selectively permitting passage. The distinction is the entire negotiation. These 3 Iranian statements, taken together, reveal that Tehran's public position remains completely incompatible with the 3 requirements Trump and Rubio have publicly stated are non-negotiable. And yet, both Trump and Rubio are saying a deal is close. This paradox requires an explanation. The explanation lies in the difference between what is being said publicly and what is being negotiated privately. Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal General Asim Munir met with Iranian President Pezeshkian and Foreign Minister Araghchi in Tehran on Saturday. Qatar sent a senior official to Tehran to support Pakistan's mediation efforts. 5 rounds of U.S.-Iran talks have already occurred, through Omani and Pakistani intermediaries, on the Hormuz governance mechanism, the toll regime, and the enrichment moratorium terms. A 6th round is being considered for after the Hajj peak. What this tells you is that there is a negotiation happening on a different track from the public statements. The public statements are about domestic audiences. Trump reassuring American voters that he is winning. Araghchi reassuring Iranian hardliners that Iran is not surrendering. The private negotiation is about finding language that both sides can accept, language that allows Trump to say, no tolls, and allows Iran to say, we manage the strait, without both statements being technically false. This is how diplomatic agreements get made. Both sides find a formulation that each can sell at home, even if the underlying reality is ambiguous. The question is whether the 2 sides are close enough to that formulation to sign something before the window closes. And here is the window: Hajj. The day of Arafah falls on May 26th, 2 days from now. This is the holiest day of the Islamic calendar, when approximately 1.8 million pilgrims gather on the plain of Arafat outside Mecca. Saudi Arabia is the host. Iran is a major source of pilgrims. The UAE, Qatar, and every Gulf state have citizens making the pilgrimage. Any military escalation during Hajj carries catastrophic political costs for every party in this conflict. This creates a 96-hour diplomatic window, from now until May 26th, in which the pressure to reach at least a preliminary agreement is at its maximum. Saudi Arabia cannot publicly object to any deal that reduces regional tension during Hajj. Iran cannot escalate militarily while its citizens are in Mecca. The United States cannot drop bombs during the most sacred period in the Muslim calendar without facing overwhelming condemnation from every Muslim-majority country it has been trying to court. Both sides know this, and both sides know the window closes after May 26th, when the constraints of Hajj lift and the full range of options, including military resumption, comes back on the table. Trump's Saturday announcement was timed deliberately to this window. He is creating momentum, public, visible, announced momentum, in the hope that the pressure of a largely negotiated deal being publicly described as imminent, will force Tehran to sign something rather than be seen as the party that collapsed the agreement. This is classic Trump negotiating methodology. Announce the deal before it exists, create public pressure on the other side to either confirm or deny, and use that pressure to extract the final concession. But Iran has seen this playbook before, and Tehran has its own calculation. If it signs an agreement under the pressure of Hajj timing, it will be seen domestically as having capitulated to American deadlines. If it refuses to sign and waits until after Hajj, it retains leverage, but risks resumed American military action with full diplomatic cover. Now, there is one more dimension of this story that is receiving almost no coverage and that could unravel everything. Netanyahu has not officially responded to Trump's announcement that a deal is largely negotiated. An Israeli political source, speaking anonymously, was quoted as saying, "Israel is watching developments closely and waiting to see the final terms." But the absence of an official Netanyahu response to a Trump announcement of this magnitude is itself a statement. Netanyahu and Trump spoke by phone, and Trump said it went very well. But Netanyahu's office has not confirmed those characterizations or endorsed the framework. Here is why this matters. Israel launched this war alongside the United States on February 28th. Its stated objective was the permanent elimination of Iran's nuclear weapons capacity. The war's stated aims, as PBS NewsHour reported this weekend, have not been achieved. Iran still has its enriched uranium. Its missile program is being rebuilt. It continues to support armed proxies. The new supreme leader, son of the previous one and close to the Revolutionary Guard, has not been seen publicly, but is reportedly firmly in control. If Trump signs a deal that includes any form of continued Iranian enrichment, even a long moratorium rather than a permanent ban, Netanyahu will face enormous domestic political pressure to declare the deal insufficient. House Speaker Mike Johnson said the deal would help the GOP in midterms by lowering gas prices. But Republican senators and former GOP officials have already warned that any Trump deal with Iran would simply be a repeat of Obama's nuclear deal, the same deal that Trump himself tore up in 2018 and that Rubio spent years denouncing as a catastrophic failure. This is the political trap that Washington has built for itself. Trump needs a deal to lower gas prices before midterms. Any deal that Iran will accept will include some form of continued enrichment. Any deal with continued enrichment will be attacked by Republicans as Obama 2.0. And Netanyahu, who Trump told went very well in their call, has never in his political career endorsed a deal that leaves Iranian enrichment intact. Three possible outcomes are now visible from the next 96 hours. The first is a real deal, a signed memorandum of understanding before May 26th that establishes a 30-day negotiating window, reopens the strait to commercial traffic, and includes ambiguous language on enrichment that each side can interpret favorably at home. This is the outcome Trump announced on Saturday. It would lower oil prices, give Trump a domestic political win, and kick the hardest questions, enrichment, sanctions, reparations, to the 30-day window that follows. The second is a false dawn, a deal announced by Trump that Iran publicly accepts in vague terms but immediately disputes in the specifics. This is what happened with the ceasefire on April 8th, which the IDF chief of staff said does not actually exist. Trump would declare victory. Iran would claim it retained everything that matters. The strait would partially reopen, and the deeper negotiation would continue unresolved. The third is a collapse. Iran refuses to sign before Hajj, the window closes, and Trump faces a choice between accepting a weaker deal after May 26th or resuming military operations with the full diplomatic cover of having tried and been rejected. This is the scenario Arachi is managing for with his public "no enrichment equals no deal" statement, keeping the door open while refusing to close it on America's terms. Rubio said the problem will be solved one way or the other. That phrase, "one way or the other," has appeared in Trump administration statements about Iran for the past 3 months. It always means the same thing. Either you accept the deal on the table or the military option returns. The next 96 hours will tell us whether that binary choice, combined with the pressure of Hajj and the momentum of a publicly announced, largely negotiated framework, is enough to get Iran across the line. Arachi's last public statement before the weekend said, "No enrichment would mean we do not have a deal." Trump's last public statement said the deal is largely negotiated and will be announced shortly. Rubio said significant progress has been made and perhaps there will be something to talk about. One man says no, one man says largely done, one man says perhaps. The strait carries 20% of the world's oil. It has been effectively closed for 86 days. Oil is at over $100 a barrel, and the most important 96 hours of this entire war are happening right now. Watch what comes out of Tehran before May 26th. Because whatever Iran says in that window, yes, no, or the carefully worded something in between, will determine whether this war ends with a deal, continues with a fiction, or resumes with bombs. The next announcement is coming. The question is whether it will be the one Trump has already written on social media or something far more complicated that neither side fully controls.